What if the cars sitting in your driveway are already being erased from history? 8 brands, once respected, now abandoned. Dealerships are shutting down, prices are collapsing, and quietly, without headlines, entire nameplates are vanishing from the road.
Yeah, Tessa, it's an unfortunate fact, and right now it could take months for those inventories to get back to normal, but that timeline even is just a guess from dealers at this point that I spoke to, and used dealerships in particular are having to raise prices to keep up with competition.
Not because of one bad model, but because the system failed and nobody warned you. Why are buyers walking away from brands they once trusted? What secrets are these automakers hiding as they fight to stay alive? And which one could disappear next, taking your resale value with it? Because by the end of this video, you'll know which cars to avoid before you end up stuck with a name nobody wants. Fiat, the quirky import that never belonged. Bold design, a retro silhouette, and vibrant personality made this European upstart look like a cultural breakthrough when it re-entered the United States of America in the year 2011. The relaunch centered on one car, the 500. With its bubbly shape, rounded headlights, and unmistakable Italian charm, it stood out against the sea of beige sedans and oversized pickups clogging American roads. For style-conscious drivers living in dense cities like San Francisco, Boston, or Chicago, it seemed like the perfect answer. A compact, stylish vehicle that could squeeze into tight parking spots while still turning heads. Initial reactions were optimistic. Reviewers praised its playful design and urban maneuverability. Drivers enjoyed its light steering, customizable color schemes, and quirky cabin layout. It was marketed not just as transportation, but as a lifestyle, fun, efficient, and different. In an age of conformity, Fiat promised rebellion in miniature form. Sales spiked early, and it seemed like a fresh chapter had begun for the brand. But beneath the surface, problems emerged quickly. Mechanical reliability was one of the 500's greatest weaknesses. Owners reported frequent issues with the transmission, electrical components, and onboard software. Consumer reports consistently ranked the car at the bottom of its class for dependability. Fiat, unfamiliar with the expectations of the American market, failed to scale up its support network. Many customers found themselves waiting weeks for parts, and dealer service centers were few and far between. Functionally, the car fell short in key areas. Its cramped back seat, tiny trunk, and stiff ride quality limited its practicality beyond short city commutes. American consumers, accustomed to larger vehicles with space for families, groceries, or road trips, quickly found the 500 to be a novelty that wore thin. When Fiat expanded the lineup with models like the 500L and 500X, it hoped to solve those problems. Instead, it introduced heavier, less refined vehicles that were neither true to the brand's identity nor competitive with segment leaders. The pricing didn't help. While the 500 was marketed as an affordable boutique car, it often cost several $1,000s more than better-equipped, more reliable rivals. Positioned between economy cars and premium compacts, it struggled to find an audience. The value proposition was unclear. Why pay more for less comfort, less space, and more maintenance? By the year 2024, Fiat's presence in the United States of America had nearly vanished. Annual sales dipped below 2,000 units. Parent company Stellantis quietly pivoted resources toward more profitable nameplates like Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. The Fiat brand received no major promotional efforts, no marketing push, and no future product announcements for North America. The 500 electric model exists in Europe, but there are no clear plans for its return stateside. If Fiat was always a misfit in America, the next brand was once a giant, until it shrank into near invisibility. Mitsubishi, from turbo legend to dealership ghost. Rally-winning performance and street racing prestige once defined this Japanese automaker's image. The Lancer Evolution was the beating heart of that era, a turbocharged, all-wheel drive missile engineered for domination. It could dance on back roads and blaze through rally stages, all while carrying groceries on Monday and lapping circuits on Sunday. Packed with sophisticated all-wheel torque distribution, sharp steering, and bulletproof tuning potential, it offered mechanical wizardry at a price far below its European rivals. Then came the Eclipse, a sleek, sporty coupe that gave a generation of young drivers their first taste of performance. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, the brand wasn't just respected, it was revered. That golden age is long gone. In a confusing and poorly executed pivot, the company walked away from its identity. The evolution was discontinued. The Eclipse was shelved. Sedans were abandoned entirely. In their place came a bland lineup of sport utility vehicles: the Outlander Sport, and the Eclipse Cross, a model whose name angered longtime fans by attaching it to a sluggish crossover, with little in common with the iconic coupe that preceded it. The brand traded throttle response and handling for cheap plastic interiors and indistinct styling. In an increasingly saturated segment filled with compelling choices from Toyota, Honda, and Hyundai, Mitsubishi offered neither the value nor the performance to stand out. Dealerships began to disappear. Without a single production facility in the United States of America, Mitsubishi relied entirely on imports. That made the brand especially vulnerable to tariff fluctuations and shipping delays. During the global semiconductor shortage, Mitsubishi showrooms across the country were left with little or no inventory for months. Consumers, unwilling to wait, simply went elsewhere, often never returning. Smaller dealerships closed. Larger ones scaled back. In many major metro areas, the brand became almost impossible to find. The company's electric vehicle strategy did not help. Early promises of next-generation plug-in models failed to deliver. Aside from a mild plug-in hybrid version of the Outlander, there was no full electric flagship. No bold concept turned reality. No answer to what came next. Consumers looking for forward-thinking design and cutting-edge tech found nothing to hold on to. The market moved ahead. Mitsubishi stayed still. By the year 2023, its global footprint had eroded, and its American relevance had nearly vanished. Sales numbers confirm the collapse. Annual figures in the United States of America have dropped so low that some industry analysts now classify the brand as statistically insignificant. In many states, dealers report moving fewer than 10 vehicles per month, barely enough to cover overhead. Even in historically strong markets like Southern California and Florida, Mitsubishi's presence has declined to the point of invisibility. Mitsubishi faded by erasing what made it special. The next brand is doing the opposite, holding on to the past as the future rushes by. If this video's already saved you from one bad decision, do us a favor, tap subscribe. We dig up the data so you don't get stuck with a brand that's disappearing. Jaguar, luxury without loyalty. Elegant British styling, opulent interiors, and a seductive performance signature once made this automaker one of the most aspirational luxury brands in the world. The roar of its V8 engine, the stretch of its long hood, and the charisma of models like the XJ sedan and the F-Type coupe created a mystique few other manufacturers could match. Driving one was not merely a commute, it was a declaration. But that identity is now vanishing. In a bold yet deeply polarizing move, the company announced it would abandon all internal combustion engines and become a fully electric brand by the year 2030. The announcement made headlines, but it fractured the foundation that had held Jaguar together for decades. Loyal customers who once cherished the throaty growl of a gasoline engine felt betrayed. They were promised elegance with an edge. Instead, they received quiet propulsion and minimalist dashboards, experiences they could get from brands with less history but more innovation. The strategy was meant to win over a new, younger, tech-forward buyer, but that audience never showed up. Electric vehicle shoppers gravitated toward Tesla, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW, brands that offered more advanced platforms, faster acceleration, longer range, and better software. Jaguar's only electric offering, the I-Pace, launched with early promise but quickly faded from relevance. Delayed updates, clunky infotainment, and limited charging infrastructure left it lagging behind. It failed to become the flagship the company needed it to be. Sales numbers confirm the collapse. In the year 2024, global deliveries plummeted to just 33,000 units. That is down from 180,000 in the year 2018, an 82% decline in less than a decade. In the United States of America, only 13,000 vehicles were sold in the same year. To put that into context, Lexus and BMW each sell more than 30,000 vehicles every single month. Jaguar's presence in North America is fading into irrelevance. Compounding the crisis is a barren product lineup. The brand now leans heavily on the F-Pace sport utility vehicle, which is no longer competitive against newer rivals with hybrid or fully electric drivetrains. There are no new sedans, no sports coupes, no fresh ideas rolling off production lines. Part of the problem lies in Jaguar's all-or-nothing approach. Instead of modifying existing platforms like other legacy automakers, it chose to develop entirely new electric architectures from scratch. That decision demands massive capital investment, extended development timelines, and a leap of faith in a brand that's already struggling to hold consumer attention. The result is a company caught in limbo, no longer appealing to traditional luxury buyers, yet unable to capture the next generation. Once a symbol of timeless British sophistication, Jaguar now finds itself wandering between eras, unanchored by the past and unprepared for the future. Jaguar still chases the future, but one brand on this list cannot even afford to build for today: Chrysler, a brand frozen in time. The minivan defined American suburban life, and for decades, this automaker led the charge. From cross-country road trips to school pickup lines, families relied on its spacious interiors, stowable seating, and effortless utility. The town and country was once the gold standard for multi-row family comfort, offering power sliding doors, built-in entertainment systems, and enough cargo space to haul both kids and coolers in one trip. The Chrysler 300 brought luxury sedan flair to middle-class garages. Bold styling, a powerful V6 or V8 engine, and the swagger of rear-wheel drive at an accessible price. In its prime, the brand struck a rare balance between prestige and practicality, an automaker that understood exactly what American families wanted and delivered it with confidence. Now that presence has all but disappeared. As of the year 2025, this brand sells just two vehicles in the United States of America, the Pacifica and the Voyager. Both are minivans. Neither leads their class, while competitors like Honda, Toyota, and Kia have evolved their vans with hybrid powertrains, futuristic interiors, and cutting-edge safety systems. Chrysler has stood still. The Voyager is a bare-bones fleet model, rarely found outside of rental lots or commercial service. The Pacifica, once praised for introducing the first plug-in hybrid minivan, has not received a meaningful update in years. Its interior tech is aging, its exterior design is unchanged, and its competitors have all caught up or surpassed it. This stagnation is not just unfortunate, it is existential. Sales have plummeted. In the past 10 years, the brand's minivan volume has fallen by more than 50%. Stellantis, Chrysler's parent company, has publicly stated that underperforming brands are on borrowed time. With no electric vehicles in the pipeline, no new sport utility vehicles in development, and no revitalization strategy in sight, Chrysler is dangerously close to being quietly phased out. Unlike Jeep or Dodge, which have seen investments in fresh product development, Chrysler appears left behind. The deeper problem is cultural irrelevance. Millennials and Generation Z do not associate Chrysler with anything remotely exciting. They see it as a name from their parents' or grandparents' past, attached to rental fleets, aging interiors, and vehicles that fail to inspire. Even in the one segment it once dominated, Chrysler now trails the pack. While rivals are pushing the boundaries of design and connectivity, Chrysler is still offering familiarity with no meaningful innovation. That irrelevance has trickled down to the retail level. Chrysler showrooms are increasingly quiet. Dealer networks are shrinking, loyal buyers are aging out, and there is no compelling story left to bring in new ones. In an age where every car brand is trying to reinvent itself, Chrysler feels like a time capsule no one is trying to open. It is not hated, it is not mocked, it is simply ignored, and that is the most dangerous fate of all. While Chrysler still technically breathes, the next brand's reputation is already dead on arrival. Alfa Romeo, passion that breaks down. Dramatic styling, high-revving performance, and a badge steeped in motorsport history gave this Italian brand an emotional edge few competitors could match. When it returned to the United States of America in the mid-2010s, enthusiasts were ecstatic. The Giulia sports sedan, especially in its quadrifoglio trim, delivered Ferrari-inspired excitement with a snarling twin-turbocharged six-cylinder engine and near-perfect weight distribution. It could outrun a BMW M3 and look better doing it. Meanwhile, the Stelvio Sport utility vehicle brought that same energy to a more practical format, promising style and speed without compromise. For a while, the brand felt like a genuine alternative to the usual German luxury suspects, but even the most seductive designs cannot hide mechanical chaos forever. From the start, quality control proved disastrous. Owners reported everything from random dashboard failures and sensor errors to seized transmissions and leaky cooling systems. Electronic gremlins plagued the infotainment interface, while battery drain issues and faulty climate control systems were so common, they became meme-worthy in online forums. Despite its exotic appeal, the Giulia became a regular in service bays across the country, undermining buyer trust at every turn. The deeper problem was cost. Maintenance was high even by luxury standards, but the long-term reliability did not justify the investment. Basic service appointments often cost hundreds of dollars, and more serious repairs, especially on the performance models, ran into the thousands. This quickly alienated buyers who expected a little trouble, but not a financial black hole. Depreciation accelerated the fallout. Within just 2 or 3 years, Giulia quadrifolios were selling for less than half their original price. The second-hand market, once seen as an opportunity to own Italian power at a discount, became flooded with vehicles owners were desperate to escape. Enthusiasts tried to hold on. They praised the chassis balance, the steering feel, and the raw emotional connection these cars offered. But one too many check engine lights, tow trucks, or back-ordered parts eventually took their toll. Even brand loyalists began trading their Italian keys for German ones. The promise of daily passion turned into daily unpredictability. In a segment where confidence is currency, the brand's volatile reputation became a death sentence. Stellantis, the parent company, noticed the decline. Over the past several years, investment in the brand's North American operations has dwindled. Advertising budgets were slashed, dealership footprints shrank. Planned new models were either shelved or delayed indefinitely. The recently introduced Tonale, a hybrid crossover, received minimal fanfare, and sales figures remained modest at best. With every quarter that passes, Alfa Romeo's presence in the United States of America becomes more of a ghost, a nameplate surviving more out of obligation than enthusiasm. The brand's legacy as a maker of soulful machines lives on in classic car circles and vintage racing leagues. But on modern roads, that legacy is dimming. In the end, beauty and performance were not enough. Americans need reliability, resale, and reassurance, and that was never part of the Alfa Romeo equation. Alfa gave us style over substance. Meanwhile, the next brand offered neither. Daewoo, the forgotten flop. Low prices, modern styling, and a confident pitch made this South Korean automaker look like a disruptor in the late 1990s. The brand positioned itself as a clever alternative to Honda and Toyota, offering brand new vehicles for the price of used ones. Models like the Lanos, Nubira, and Laganza arrived in the United States of America with sleek advertising campaigns and optimistic taglines. To students, young families, and budget-conscious workers, it sounded like the perfect deal. Something shiny, new, and cheap enough to drive off the lot that same day. Unfortunately, these cars were built more on dreams than on engineering. Beneath the painted plastic and chrome detailing was some of the flimsiest construction in the segment. Early Daewoo vehicles were notorious for premature mechanical failures. Suspension components wore out within a few years. Door handles snapped off. Air conditioning systems stopped working during the first heat wave. Engine oil leaks and head gasket issues were common, sometimes surfacing before the 50,000-mile mark. In a market that places high value on durability, this was a death sentence. Parts availability made the problem even worse. Unlike more established automakers with nationwide dealer networks, Daewoo's infrastructure was thin and poorly supported. Finding replacement parts often meant weeks of waiting or scouring third-party distributors. Some owners resorted to importing parts themselves. Mechanics unfamiliar with the brand would turn away repairs altogether. A simple alternator replacement could become a logistical nightmare, and warranty support was infamously slow. The customer experience collapsed alongside the hardware. Service centers were often untrained or underfunded. Dealers closed without warning, leaving buyers stranded with vehicles they could not fix. Negative press mounted. Online reviews, owner forums, and word-of-mouth horror stories spread quickly. The dream of owning a new car at used car prices became a cautionary tale repeated in used lots and coffee shops across the country. By the early 2000s, the brand was unraveling. Daewoo's parent company filed for bankruptcy in South Korea, unable to maintain global operations. General Motors acquired many of its assets, but had no interest in maintaining the brand identity. Instead, the models were quietly absorbed into the Chevrolet lineup, repainted, renamed, and reintroduced under new badging. Daewoo, as a standalone name, vanished almost overnight. There was no fanfare, no announcement, just empty showrooms and a legacy no one wanted to inherit. Today, only a few of these cars remain on American roads, usually in poor condition and long past their expiration dates. Even collectors avoid them. The resale value is virtually zero, and the support network no longer exists. Daewoo is a brand that promised the world, delivered disappointment, and disappeared without a trace. If Daewoo taught us that cheap is not always better, the next brand proves that even icons can fall. Nissan, a giant in free fall. Affordable, durable, and ahead of the curve, those were the traits that once defined this Japanese automotive powerhouse. It was the brand that gave Americans the reliable Altima, the rugged Pathfinder, the sleek Maxima, and the game-changing Leaf. For decades, drivers trusted this name to deliver consistent value with a touch of innovation. Its vehicles were everywhere, from suburban driveways to rural job sites. The Leaf, launched in the early 2010s, led the electric vehicle market long before electric buzzwords became the norm. This was a brand that balanced common sense engineering with forward-looking ambition. It worked until it didn't. Today, the company is unraveling from within. Its sedans, which once led their class, now feel like relics. The Altima and Sentra have been passed by rivals offering better technology, performance, and resale value. The Maxima, once a flagship, full-size sedan, has become so dated that many consumers assume it was discontinued. The Leaf, which began as a bold electric revolution, has stagnated, offering shorter range, older battery technology, and fewer advanced safety features than most competitors. As Hyundai, Tesla, and Ford evolved, this company stalled. The Ariya, its new electric entry, arrived late, overpromised on performance, and failed to compete in a rapidly accelerating market. But the most glaring issue is structural: its dealership network. The company has too many storefronts for its dwindling sales volume. With overextended regional coverage, dealerships are competing with one another in a race to the bottom. Unsold cars sit for weeks, even months, gathering dust while floor plan financing racks up. Dealerships desperate to move inventory/prices until margins vanish. This discount-driven strategy may temporarily inflate sales numbers, but it permanently erodes brand value. Cars become known as disposable commodities, not long-term investments. Meanwhile, in its home market of Japan, the picture is even bleaker. The brand has suffered a staggering 99% collapse in profitability. Once a cornerstone of Japanese industrial pride, it has now become a cautionary tale. Scandals at the executive level, including the high-profile arrest of a former chief executive officer for financial misconduct, have led to years of instability. Leadership shakeups followed, but with little progress. Innovation stalled, vision evaporated, resources dried up. Even the brand's once glorious performance division has struggled. The new Z sports car failed to make the cultural splash of its predecessors. Critics called it a nostalgic remix rather than a modern breakthrough. In the sport utility vehicle market, models like the Rogue and Murano are merely average. They offer competent performance, but little inspiration. Certainly not enough to reverse declining market share. Once seen as a reliable go-to, this automaker now feels invisible. There is no standout product, no cultural moment, no future-defining technology. In a market this competitive, being average is not safe. It is suicidal. The company is sliding quietly into irrelevance, not with a bang, but with silence. And now for the #1 car brand Americans have almost completely given up on, one that was once a badge of honor and is now a warning sign. Maserati. Luxury without trust. Power, style, and Italian flair once made this automaker a magnet for dreamers. The Trident badge didn't just suggest luxury, it screamed it. Whether you saw one parked outside a 5-star resort or roaring past on a winding road, there was no mistaking it for anything else. Models like the Quattroporte, Ghibli, and Gran Turismo blended performance with opulence in ways few could match. The promise was clear: you were buying into exclusivity. You were choosing a brand that gave you speed, leather, heritage, and attention. This wasn't just a car, it was an identity. Unfortunately, that identity has crumbled. Beneath the sleek surfaces and theatrical engine notes lurked one of the most unreliable vehicle lineups in modern luxury. Owners across the United States of America reported recurring issues: electronic glitches, dashboard system failures, drivetrain errors, and suspension breakdowns. Even windows and door locks often malfunctioned within the first year of ownership. For cars with six-figure price tags, that level of mechanical inconsistency was unacceptable, and the costs astounding. Repairs for simple components often ran into the thousands. A failing transmission or electronic module could cost well over $10,000. Then came the depreciation cliff. A Maserati worth $120,000 new might fetch $40,000 just 2 years later. Buyers weren't just losing money, they were hemorrhaging it. Leasing was no better. Lease end residual values tanked so dramatically that many dealerships stopped offering competitive terms altogether. Combined with limited service networks and ballooning insurance costs, ownership became a burden rather than a reward. In the year 2024, Maserati sold fewer than 5,000 vehicles in the United States of America. Globally, it reported hundreds of millions of dollars in losses. Parent company Stellantis has expressed frustration, with executives hinting at possible restructuring or divestment. Meanwhile, rivals like Porsche and BMW have leaned hard into electric vehicles, connectivity, and reliability, all areas where Maserati lags far behind. Trade policy has made things worse. With no production facilities in North America, every single model incurs import tariffs. Under President Donald Trump's continuing trade enforcement on European luxury goods, these tariffs further increase prices without improving product quality. Porsche has local plants. Ferrari has loyalty. Maserati has neither. Its customer base is shrinking. Its resale value is a joke. Its technological development is slow. The brand is in a stall, and there's no altitude left to pull up. What once felt aspirational now feels like a gamble. Maserati is not dead yet, but it is bleeding, slowly, visibly, and publicly. These brands didn't just lose sales, they lost trust. If you've ever owned one, drop your story in the comments. Like if this helped you dodge a mistake, and subscribe, because the next brand collapse is already happening.